my name's Nick Francis. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Brooklyn Vendor Assurance. This is Chapter 6 in the BVA Risk Management Basics course, which is an introduction to risk management and the basic principles to apply when managing vendors at scale. In Chapter 6, we're going to talk about what is risk appetite and tolerance levels and how do I calculate them. So essentially, a lot of risk analysis is based on two main things, impact and probability. In risk analysis terms, risk is traditionally defined as a function of probability and impact. And probability is the likelihood of an event occurring and the consequences to which that project or thing is affected by the said event, which are the impacts. So in summary, the probability or likelihood, in short, is how quickly something might come to be. So typically measured in years. So for example, you might have heard the term before, a 1 in 100 year event. This, when referred to, is meaning there's a low chance of it happening. It's going to happen once in 100 years. On the other side of that scale is the impact. So when it does happen, or if it was to happen, how bad would the impact be? And in most organisations that I've seen, it's usually measured in a financial way. So most people understand the concept of money. A high majority of people understand the concept of money. So financial scaling is something most people can get their head around. Some industries, like some medical industries or high threat industries, look at it in kind of threat to life. That's not usual. Unless you're a specialist in those type of industries, it will commonly be around financial. And then what does this mean from an appetite versus tolerance perspective? So risk appetite is a targeted level of loss or exposure to the organisation that is viewed as acceptable given its business objectives and what it's trying to achieve and the resources that are available to it. Tolerance is the degree of variance from an organisation's risk appetite that the organisation is willing to tolerate. So are they, for certain things, willing to overstep their appetite or increase their appetite, or with certain conditions make their appetite less. So in a poor market or financial downturn, organisations might reduce their appetite to play for that kind of market condition. What is common in the majority of organisations is companies use a grid to measure risk scoring effectively and risk appetite and tolerance. And what I mean by a grid is, if we just look at this from a personal perspective, so let's say under a condition that you look at impact in the same financial terms as a bank would per se. In this case, we've scaled it for an individual, so £10, £20, £30, £40 or £50. Danish krona is 10 times more or less sterling at the moment, so 10x on those numbers for krona. And then from a probability likelihood perspective in a time sense, so 1 year, 6 months, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day, and then we consider your appetite. You start building the position around your appetite levels here. So would losing £10 a year be a huge problem? No one likes to lose money over whatever term, but if you lost £10 a year, would it really matter? Probably not. Right? So we'll mark that as green. And this is subjective, it's down to the individual. So if I lost £10 over 6 months, would it concern me? Again, not really. If I start losing £10 every month, I start becoming, that's uncomfortable, I don't really want to tolerate that. £10 a week, that's excessive, yet definitely don't want that to happen. And £10 a day, absolutely catastrophic, do not want to lose £10 a day. So what you kind of glean from this, just through going discussing it at an individual level, is that I would start considering my appetite exceeded if I was to start losing £10 a week. Right? As painful as £10 a month might be, I probably could wear it. £10 a week's too much, right? We then look at it on the other scale, which is the impact. So if I lost £20 a year, again, not so bad. £30 a year, not so bad. 50, not so bad. Start on this scale, start wobbling about £50 a year. That would be concerning. What this indicates when you do this exercise is, for me personally, that the impact scale probably wants to be higher, right? So I could increase the impact scale to a bigger volume to get similar to what I did on the timing into the red, as it were. But on that basis, and the scale we've got here, I would consider, just because that's the top, my appetite's exceeded when it goes sort of at £50 plus. Now, if you fill the rest of the grid in, you start to see this kind of logic and this line up here, which is a clear threshold that denotes a point at which the appetite is exceeded based on the money that we are happy to lose over that period, or I'm happy to lose over that period. So that line denotes that consideration and that threshold point being exceeded. Now, if we then did a situation or played a risk into this, which is potentially let's go to the casino and play roulette and thus risking money lost. So loss of money being the risk, the cause of that is going to the casino. If I then considered something that suggested I went to the casino every day playing roulette with £50, that's probably out of appetite. Well, it's definitely out of appetite. I didn't want to lose any money every day, even at £10, so I wouldn't want to lose it at £50, so that is considered out of appetite. Similarly, if we then look at moving that across to £50 a year, I'll probably go to the casino once every couple of years, and I'm happy to lose £50 just to enjoy myself. So yeah, it sort of becomes, it's in appetite, that's tolerable if you enjoy going to the casino. But putting that back and then looking at it differently, it says, let's say we went once a year and we went with £20. Absolutely in the green, no problem with that. Risk appetite's not exceeded. And even though there's a level of risk there and it's acceptable risk down to the matrix that I've set personally against the probability, likelihood and impact. So the only difference with corporates in this sense is they tend to think bigger and longer term. So our scale of £10 to £50 in 1 year to 1 day drops away, and a corporate's usually going to look at it like this, right? Depending on the size of the organisation. So impacts in the millions, 10, 25, 50, 100, 500 million, and then in the point I made earlier about a 100-year event, in the context of time being a 100+ year event, 50-year event, 10-year event, 1 year and 6 months. And then they'll adjust their tolerance line accordingly. So this is an organisation with an example that has a significant appetite for risk. They are not swayed or deterred by much. They are happy to risk big financial penalties over extended periods of time, and even to the extent happy to risk sort of 50 million a year, 6 months, but have some concern of that. But even at the sweet spot here, happy to risk 50 million over 10 years all day long, every time. Right? And that's their significant risk appetite. This organisation is slightly different. So this organisation, if you look to this risk matrix, they have a low appetite for risk. They are not happy to risk anything above 50 million ever. They are only happy to risk significant amounts like that 50 million, 25 million when it's a 1 in a 100-year event, maybe 1 in a 50-year event. When it's under that kind of level, anything like a 10-year event, they're only happy to risk up to 10 million. So that's a lower risk appetite than the one we showed before. Now, this is populating the risk matrix with a score. Adding the numbers in helps give context around the risk and how things can be communicated. So you can force rank your risk stocks, all the risks you've got, you can force rank them into the highest to lowest. This organisation that has the low risk appetite considers its tolerance levels being exceeded around the score of 4. Right, so you can see in this case, and this sometimes happens where you've got a 4 that's slightly inside, so when it's 25 million over 50 years, consideration, but this 4, depending on how the way it's calculated, so 1 by 4 on the 100 million over 100 years, they're out, and 10 million over a year, they're out. So it starts to be put under pressure around the score of 4. Score of 5 and above, we're clearly exceeded, and that's not tolerable. Hopefully that was helpful from a risk appetite and tolerance perspective and what those matrices and those terms and lines mean. Next we'll talk about it in the context in chapter 7 of life cycle, so how you manage a risk through its life cycle, looking at some of the things we've covered today. Thank you.